Hello everybody, Roger from Skateboard Canada joining you once again. Got a great guest in studio here at Skateboard Canada, professional skateboarder that's done very well in the Summer X Games, former member of Human Skateboards. He has skateboarded down the hallways of the White House and rode for Airwalk for 20 plus years, a founding board member of USA Skateboarding. I'm honored to bring into the studio Mr. Andy Macdonald. Welcome, Andy.
Roger.
Hey, what's
Thanks for
happening?
having
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy guy. What's going on in San Diego, California these days?
Just starting to have some stuff going on for the past 2 years because of the pandemic. It's just been like shut down. I've been skating basically the park near my house, Poods, Little Clover Bowl, and Tony Hawk's Ramp almost exclusively. Just like not going anywhere, not doing anything. And then just as the pandemic has finally started to wane, we got out to Salt Lake City, Utah a few months ago and did a demo, and there's a contest out there, kind of Tony Hawk Legends demo type thing, in conjunction with the Street League that was out there. All the street guys came and checked out the vert demo. It was pretty fun, good event just to be out and traveling and getting out and about for the first time in a long time. And things have been slowly picking back up again since then. So next month I'll be going to a contest in England, and the month after that over to Tokyo, and then in May down to where am I going? Colombia. Never been there. So
Wow, lots of air miles for you.
Again.
Andy, you're a great skateboarder. You've been doing this for a long time. You're in your late 40s. Where do I even start here? Let's go back. You're from the northeast of America there. You can relate to kind of some of the skating conditions that the Canadians go through in the winters. What was your introduction to skateboarding?
Probably a lot like the introduction that you guys had growing up in Canada. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's cold and dark half the year, and raining the other half. So the weather's not super conducive to skateboarding. But somebody gave me a skateboard to try one afternoon. I was down the hoops, down the basketball court shooting hoops one day, and I asked him if I could try his skateboard, and it was 1985. So it was the first time I'd ever seen a skateboard that was like big, wide plywood skateboard. Up to that point, I'd only ever seen, little penny board shit, like 1970s style skateboards. And this was like big, wide, 80s style skateboard, smooth urethane wheels. And I was immediately hooked. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was trying to trade him my basketball for his skateboard. He didn't make the trade, but I went home that afternoon and started bugging my mom, like, you got to get me a skateboard for Christmas this year. And lucky for me, she wouldn't let me play football. She thought it was too dangerous, but she got me a skateboard for Christmas that year, and it was all downhill from there.
Now, Andy, skateboarding wasn't that big back in that day. What were your peers and your parents thinking when you decided to go with skateboarding instead of what would be a more traditional career?
Like college.
Yeah.
They had the reaction that you would expect from parents that, what you told, like, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go be a professional skateboarder. And they were like, a professional what? You can't make a living skateboarding. And at the time, they were probably right. There was only a couple guys that were really making a living. And even at that, not much of one. But it didn't matter. I never grew up like, I'm going to be a doctor so I can make lots of money. It was just like, I'm lucky enough that I found my passion when I was 12 years old. I picked up a skateboard when I was 12. By the time I was probably 14 or 15, only a few years later, I was like, this is what I want to do. I'd be flipping through the pages of Trans World or Thrasher magazine, looking at pictures of guys, all blue sky, sunny days in San Diego. And it'd be like snowing or raining at my house. And I'd be like, I want that. I want to go there. I want those guys get paid to skateboard. I didn't think about like, how much do they get paid? Like they can ride their skateboard for a living. I want that. I want to do that. It was as simple as that for me. So by the time I graduated high school, I had saved up like $500 doing odd jobs and working through my senior year in high school. And I packed up my Datsun that my mom gave me she gave me her old car that had a broken radiator. The radiator didn't work, so you had to drive with the heat on full blast all the time. I loaded up all my stuff into the back of the Datsun and drove across the country, Boston to San Diego. And just chasing my dreams, trying to make it happen as a pro skateboarder.
Now, Andy, I also was skating in the late 80s and early 90s, and you're a vert transition skater. How did you deal with things when they went the other way and street skating just totally took over? Were you concerned? Were you going to pack up and head home? Or you say, I'm going to muscle through this and learn switch 3 flips like you did?
Yeah, there was never like a conscious like, oh, it's street skating now, I have to get good at this. I'd always been a skateboarder. Like I seem to excel faster, easier on transitions. But when I started skateboarding, there were no transitions. We had to build our own ramps, and then we had to shovel those ramps off like you have to in Canada if you want to skate them. For me, I came to San Diego in 1992, and vert skating was dead. Like I had won the amateur nationals the past 2 years in transition and mini ramp and vert. And, in years past, if you won the NSA, you were pro the next year. That's how it went. Like you skated the NSA amateur nationals to try to be pro. And nationals, their last year they did it, NSA went out of business in 93. And I won, and I was like, hey, and they're out of business. No one cares. So it was just like, to me though, skateboarding was skateboarding. It wasn't like there's street skating, there's vert skating. Like I never considered myself, I'm a this skater. I'm a skateboarder. So we skated backyard pools, we skated vert ramps, we skated street. I skated everything I could, all day, every day, as much as I could. And I never really considered that, it's not going to work out for me because street skating's the thing now. I skated it all. And, if I put a video part together, there would be street skating in it. There'd be pool skating in it. There'd be vert skating in it, mini ramp skating, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, you transitioned through that era in that age, and a lot of guys kind of didn't. They didn't make it as good as you did. Now, fast forward a couple years, mid 90s, the X Games comes around. Were you involved in that? The planning? Did you know that it was coming? Talk about that a bit, Andy.
I knew that it was coming. I was, as you mentioned, riding for Human Skateboards at the time. Turned pro in 1994. And I remember getting a call from Ron Semio, who I didn't know at the time. He's the creator of the X Games, and somehow he got me on the phone and was like, "What do you think about skateboard racing?" And I was like, "That's kind of like a '70s thing. It's like slalom. They don't really do that anymore." And he was just like brainstorming, like trying to get this competition that he would call the Extreme Games up and running. So I knew it was coming. I didn't know what to expect. And again, like skateboarding was skateboarding to me, and especially like competition style. If you skated a street contest in 1995, it was basically like a vert ramp chopped into little small sections. So I did pretty well in street too. In 1997, I used to win the street contest and the vert contest. It was just like, it was all ramps. So I was lucky in that regard. But it was for my career, I mean, kind of a launching pad. Tony Hawk won the first year of the X Games in Rhode Island, went back to Rhode Island the next year, and I won the X Games. The next year I came out to San Diego, Tony won. The next year I won. So it was like this, back and forth, like rubber match, who's going to, like this rivalry, because at the time, like, USA Today was covering skateboarding. There was like mainstream media trying to cover skateboarding, and they were trying to apply this mainstream attitude to the coverage of it. So I remember just being frustrated because they couldn't understand the concept that Tony and I were buddies, that we both rode for Airwalk for years. We traveled together all the time. And when they said, hey, let's do a doubles contest, Tony was the first person I called, like, hey, let's be doubles partners, And I remember doing this interview, and the interview guy for USA Today was like, but you guys are rivals. Like, how can you team up and be part of, like, and I had to just be like, look, dude, we're friends. Like, as long as he wins or I win, it's all good, right? Like, they couldn't understand that concept. And I think we've definitely come a long way since the mid 1990s. especially looking and watching the Olympics, just, this first round of the Olympics, it made me proud to be a skateboarder, to see the camaraderie, the brotherhood, sisterhood that came across so well in watching the Olympics. Like, hey, you know what? This is awesome. Skateboarding's in the Olympics. It's the biggest, gnarliest, sporting event there is. And everyone's still super hyped and cheering for each other. And, the girls putting the one girl on their shoulders, just like, yay, you got fourth, sick. Like, she was so bummed she could miss the podium. And the girls were like, you're still awesome, and the world got to see that and go like, wow, skateboarders like kind of get it. Right. And skateboarding, I thought, taught the rest of the sporting world, like, this is how you do it.
Yes. Wow. You couldn't have put it better, Andy. That was really good. That is what happened, and the world got to see that. Now, I mentioned when I introduced you here that you're a founding board member of USA Skateboarding, which of course was integral with the Olympic program. When did you get involved with that, and what did you think when the Olympics finally did come about last year?
I got involved with it around the mid 2000s, like 2005. The Do Tour was in full swing. They were doing 5 stops. NBC owned it. NBC also owns the rights to show the Olympics for the next 20 years. So they have lots of money involved, invested already. And so they knew that, they saw what snowboarding had done for the Winter Games, and they knew that skateboarding would do much the same for the Summer Games. And so there's just, I could talk for hours about the politics and the behind the scenes and the nightmare that it was to get skateboarding into the games. And I was dragged all the way through it to the point where it was like, okay, this is actually going to happen. And we took a look at our founding board, and it was basically like all white men. We're like, this isn't cool. We can't have this. So I took a back seat. I gave up my spot as a voting member of the board. We got women involved. We got people of color involved. We got LGBTQ community involved. And now the board represents skateboarding as it should be. And the unfortunate part for me, obviously, I would love to see vert skateboarding in the Olympics. And it was, as the Olympics came up, it was decided that, the global pool of women vert skaters isn't big enough, isn't mature enough yet. There isn't enough of a pool to pick from. And this was like probably 4 years before the games. And I remember saying, like, if you announce that it's in, you'll see, and you saw it, 4 years before the games, when they announced that, the games is going to be happening in Tokyo, there was nobody, women skateboarders in China, that could even stand on a skateboard. And then 4 years later, there's a couple girls from China in the finals of the Olympics. And it was just like amazing to see, like, hey, once you tell countries, once you tell the world, like, this is an Olympic sport, they're going to get behind it more so than we do in our country. Like, in America, it's one of the only countries that there's no funding for athletes, no government funding for athletes to go to the games. Almost every other country has some form of help, some form of government funding. Like, when you say, okay, this is an Olympic sport and you make the national team, you can get some support from the government. And in America, it's just like, yeah, try and get some sponsors.
Now, Andy, you talked about vertical skateboarding. To me, it's the most captivating style of skateboarding. Maybe I'm old school. I've got a skateboard magazine here, Skateboard Mag. You probably know this cover pretty well. It's your doubles partner, Tony Hawk, and you. And when I got this in the mail as a subscriber, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Can you tell us just a little bit what you guys were thinking when you decided to do this crazy stunt?
First of all, it's my only cover. Only like, unless you count like Trans World Business Magazine. I think I got the cover of that once, but shared it with Tony Hawk. My only cover of a skateboard magazine came from, again, Tony and I have been skating together since the early 1990s. We both rode for Airwalk and did a lot of traveling, a lot of demos together, and shared some of the same sponsors. We both rode for Airwalk, both rode for Swatch, and started skating. Had been skating doubles, as part of all the demonstrations we were doing, and then as part of the X Games doubles competition, we won the gold medal for 6 years in a row, and then did lots of doubles during the Boom Boom Huck Jam in the early 2000s. And we were skating doubles one day, and somebody shot, where were we? The Carmel Valley Skate Park, and somebody shot us doing synchronized frontside blunts on the hip. Like I went left over the hip, he went right over the hip because he's goofy, I'm regular. And we just saw the video footage of it, and we're like, that looks really cool. We should try and shoot some more video of us doing doubles. And so we started meeting at his ramp and trying to get some doubles clips, and putting like a doubles video part together. And the first one we did was just, I think, called Doubles. But we would just show up at the ramp and brainstorm like over under stuff. And I think it was Tony's idea to like, hey, let's, throw an invert and I'll see if I can get over you and, grab your board or whatever. And I started, the initial thought was like, I'll do a Smith stall, I'll do a Smith vert. Like I'm having a stinky old school invert and try and get my board as flat as I can. And you go up and try and get your hand on it. And I was too far over the deck. It was like he would fly up and just have nothing to grab because I was too stalled straight up and down, and he'd be further out. So we tried it a couple of times. He's like, forget that, because you get upside down and just be like flailing. And we're almost ready to give up on it. And I was like, hey, what if I flapped an andirect and like put my board out toward you more? And the very first try we tried of that, he grabbed my board, and he grabbed my board and like pushed me down, but he was like, whoa, that's way better, do an andirect. So as doubles goes, sometimes there was lots of trial and error, but we did get one that day and shot video of it. And it's super scary. Obviously Tony's on top. It's way scarier for him. And so we did it, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, next couple of days I was thinking like, we should shoot a photo of that. That's like, we just shot video. We didn't have a still photo. And so I texted Tony, like usually if I text my friend Tony, he hits me right back or whatever. And I text him like, hey, let's go shoot a photo of that. And he didn't answer. He didn't text. Like for a couple of days, I'd be like, dude, I know you're getting my text. We have to go shoot this. And he was just like, he didn't want to do it because it was too scary. But eventually I got him down to the Claremont ramp, and we shot that photo with the Tiva. And it ended up on the cover of the Skateboard mag. So super scary. There's times where I was late one time and I missed my grab and I shot my board up and I almost hit him in the face with my board. There's a couple times where he would get on my board and like think he could just stall on it and push me down. So he'd push me into the coping, and I would land on the coping with my shins and bounce back into the ramp, and just lots of trial and error, lots of crashes with that one. But
it looks like you just it looks like you did it first try. Let's go with that, Andy.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Andy, switch gears just a touch here. The mega ramp. Did you ever touch that? Get the big air? Talk to us about that. That's insane.
Yeah. So it was 1999. I was riding for Swatch watches at the time, and they had asked me like, hey, is there anything you want to do that's like, we can use as promo kind of stunt or whatever? I was like, actually, I always thought about doing like kind of an Evel Knievel jump, like transfer, jump to jump, and just see how far we can go. Like if you got the money, like I'd love to build a ramp like that and just see, and the sell to them was like, I'll set a world record for longest distance jump on a skateboard. And they gave me, I think, like 30 grand or something. And I called up Tim Payne, and a friend of mine that lived in Lansing, Michigan, had this big backyard. And he said we could use his backyard. Got a bunch of wood shipped and flew everybody out to build this ramp in Michigan, and just met at a bar the night before and literally drew on cocktail napkins like, how big do you think the transition should be? I don't know. It's going to be real big. Like, how about 20 foot, like how about 30 foot? I don't know. Like how tall should the roll in be? And let's make the landing ramp so that like, if it works, we can pull the landing ramp out further and further and make the jump longer and longer. So literally it was raining the first day, and we literally lay out plywood and drew a transition that was like 30 feet for the takeoff. or no, I'm sorry, for the transition from the roll in to the flat before the kicker. And we drew it 30 feet, and we should have left it at 30 feet. But I looked at it, I was like, nah, that looks too big. Let's do it at 20. And 20 still looked really big because nobody was doing transitions. The only transition up to that point that big was Matt Hoffman's big ramp in 1991. He built that oversized ramp and got towed into it. That didn't even occur to me. I was just trying to build a ramp to ramp, like big air jump. We called it the super kicker. And the idea came from snowboarding. I used to go up to Wendell's snowboard camp every year after the X Games in the summertime. And I learned how to hit these big 60-foot snowboard kickers. And I would always be in the air. So much fun being in the air, just big method airs or whatever. I was like, man, if I was on a skateboard, you'd have so much time to take the board off your feet, flip your board, 360s, whatever. And I always thought that would be fun. So we built this ramp in the backyard of Michigan and set a world record, 52 feet the first day.
I remember that.
Actually, first day jumped like 48 feet or whatever, and then got it in my head like, I want to jump 50. And we added, I'd already spent all the money from Swatch, and I threw down my own credit card and built more, added more ramp to the top, and ended up dropping in on like a 48-foot 4 foot wide, super sketchy, swaying in the breeze, rolling for it. And then that 20-foot transition was way too tight. So it was everything I could do to not shoot out at the bottom of it. And there was no safety deck or anything. We parked 4 cars in the gap. And one of the scariest, but also one of the funnest things I've ever done, and ended up doing a 50-foot 360 over 4 cars.
And made it into the Guinness Book of World Records.
In the Guinness Book of World Records, yep.
You still holding that title?
No, that's long gone. I mean, we jumped. They built another ramp like that and tried to break the record, and I broke my own record and jumped like 58 feet or something. And then Danny Way took that idea and Matt Hoffman's idea and built an even bigger ramp, and he was jumping 70 feet, for that DC video into a 30-foot quarter pipe or 28-foot quarter pipe or whatever. So that was the birth of big air at the X Games. And then it was really on. Then it was really dangerous because jumping over a gap's one thing, and then hitting a quarter pipe going that fast is a whole other thing. That's what makes big air dangerous. That's really why there's only a dozen people that do that.
Yeah, you're seeing it kind of hit a few more people, but what do you think when you see guys like Clay Kreiner skating these ramps, huge airs, no pads, alley-oop McTwists? Did you ever think it was going to get to this, Andy, when you started as a teenager?
Not as a teenager, but certainly when I built the Swatch ramp, I was like, wow, you're in the air so long that you're flying. You have more air time in this discipline than you do in any other discipline in skateboarding. And I was like, immediately, I was like, you could backflip this, you could 720 this, like all this stuff is going to happen. This is going to be its own discipline in our sport. And as it turned out, it is, it's a whole other, it's almost like another sport, because when you get into the 50 and 70-foot jump range, you ride a different board, you ride, different gear. You have to wear long sleeves, leather gloves. Like I'll burn through, if I put my hands out, you're going like, it's like falling off a motorcycle. You're going 45 miles an hour. So you can put your hands out and burn through a leather glove and like get ramp burns on your hand. So you wear long sleeves. A lot of guys wear those armadillo back things so you don't jack up your back. It's like motocross more. You're riding this long board like a 16-inch wheelbase with Indy 215s on it, just really wide, stable board that doesn't turn at all. And yeah, it's just super scary and super fun. The highest I've ever gone at the X Games, when they built the big air ramp in the Staples Center, they took out flat bottom in order to fit it in the Staples Center. So it was the fastest the ramp had ever been. There was a 70-foot gap, and then 16 feet less flat bottom between the bottom of the landing and the quarter pipe. So it was just the fastest ramp that they'd ever built. And I landed one in qualifiers. I landed one, did a 360 over the 70-footer, landed like a perfect landing. There's a spot, the sweet spot where you land just over the knuckle. And I pumped across the flat as I came across. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, I'm going way too fast. And I did a Judo Air on the quarter pipe that was 24 foot 1 inch. They have like these little sensors under your front truck, and they can, from the coping to your highest point of your board. And I measured 24 foot 1 inch, and I was like, okay, that's it for me. I survived that. That's as high as I'm going to go. As fast as I'm going to go. Like that was pretty much the epitome, the climax of my big air.
And you
career,
threw it,
right
and
that was it. I survived it. I'm done.
I can't believe you threw a Judo Air in there. What was that all about? You couldn't get away with the method? You had to kick the foot out, or what?
It's actually, for me, kicking my foot off would help me to stop rotating, because you're in the air so long. Even just on a regular method air, you start to over rotate your 180. So if you kick your foot off, you can use it like a rudder, and leave your foot off long enough that you can hold your board back, and it keeps you from over rotating, so that you don't feel like you're going to over rotate in just doing a regular method air on when you're going that high is, for me, harder than doing a trick. It's easier for me to have something going on than nothing going on. The same over the jump. Like, if you go straight over the jump, like just do a big method air over the jump, you tend to get off kilter when the air or whatever. It's easier to do a 360 or a judo 360 over the jump for me than it is to just straight jump it.
Andy, you're mentioning you ride a different board when you skate these big ramps. Can you just tell me what you're actually going to skate today when you go skating? We talked earlier that you're going to go skate today, but what are you actually riding? What do you ride for wheels, trucks?
I've got a whole quiver, dude. Just like surfers, man. Like, depends on what you're gonna be skating. I have a street set up. I have a big air set up. I don't skate the big air ramp at Bob's anymore, and that thing's getting pretty old and decrepit. It's been there a long time, and people just jump the 50-footer. But the fun one to skate is out at Elliott's. There's a 30-foot jump into a 20-foot quarter pipe into a what's the next jump? Like 20, 25 or 28-foot jump into an 18-foot quarter pipe. So it's just like, you've seen footage of Elliott's, just big air setup. And I still ride a big board on that, the big Indy 215s when I ride that. Today, I'll ride my pool board, which is almost identical to my vert board. I ride Thieve trucks, the all titanium trucks, thinner than most people. I ride 149s and an 8 1/4 inch wide board. Same shape I've been riding since I got on Powell in '97. Started riding this shape. It worked for me, and it's 8 1/4 wide and pretty flat, not super harsh concave. And Powell's been making me that board ever since. I haven't changed it. So I ride one with looser trucks and a little bit smaller wheels, 58 millimeter wheels on when I ride pools and skate parks, and 60 millimeter wheels when I ride vert ramps. But basically, those two boards are identical, other than the stiffness of the trucks.
I kind of brought that up because I was wondering if you want to mention your current sponsors. I know at your age, do we say sponsors, or your employers, or how do you define that, Andy?
My partners.
Your partners.
I've been riding for Powell. Yeah, I mean, I've been riding for Skate One in some form or other. It was Powell, then it was Bone, then it was Brigade, and it's back to Powell Peralta again. We did the Andy Mac brand through Powell, and then the Positive brand, Positive Skateboards for years. So Bones wheels, Bones bearings, all Skate One stuff. I ride Jessup grip tape. I rode for Airwalk, as you mentioned, for 26 years, and finally made the switch over to Vans. I've been riding for Vans for the past 5 or 6 years now. It's funny because everyone used to be, it's about the grip, man. It's about the grip, the waffle. I was just like, whatever, And then I started riding them. I was like, whoa, these shoes are like too grippy. I couldn't get used to it at first. But I'm used to my Vans now. I'm psyched on them. Who else? 888 helmets, Patagonia clothing for the past 10, 15 years, Cliff Bar. I'm at a point in my career where I can kind of choose who I want to represent. And I ride for companies that I believe in. Patagonia has pretty much led the way as far as being a socially conscious and environmentally conscious company, and they're very aligned with who I am and my politics, and they make super great quality clothing. So psyched to represent them. Same with Cliff Bar, mostly organic ingredients. They're a co-op. If you work for Cliff Bar, you're a part owner in the company. They're based in Berkeley, California. Their headquarters is all LEED certified, zero carbon footprint. You get bonus points if you walk or car share on the way to work. And they have a climbing gym inside. Like, all the employees are super, like, there's no employee turnover. There's like 99%, if you get the job there, you stay there. So just awesome to ride for companies that I believe in.
Wow. Hey, you mentioned politics. 1999, you're skating down the hallways of the White House. Andy, come on. You know I was going to ask you about this. Talk about it.
That was the first. Yeah, I there was a point in the when Tony and I had this, in quote, rivalry. Like, he was winning the X Games, I was winning the X Games the next year, going back and forth, and we used to kind of battle for firsts in skateboarding. I had a video game that you've never heard of, MTV Sports Skateboarding for PlayStation 1, and then Tony's video game came out and blew everybody out of the water. But the couple firsts I had on Tony was, I was the first to do the Tonight Show with then Letterman was the host. So I got to skate out onto the stage at the Tonight Show and ollie onto Jay Leno's desk. And the other one was the White House. I did the White House before Tony Hawk too. So during the Clinton administration, I was involved in the United States. They used to do this thing called the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, and I was the first athlete spokesperson for the partnership. And it was a super successful public service announcement, just talking about, like, hey, I'm a pro skateboarder, I don't do drugs, kind of cheesy, like, this is my high, like, this is the high I get from skateboarding, so I don't need to do that kind of stuff. And because of the success of that campaign, they ended up using lots of other athletes. The Williams sisters did spots for them, and they invited me to the White House to kick off that campaign. And I ended up doing a speech for 5-minute speech for President Clinton, to introduce President Clinton. The first public speaking I'd ever done, live, C-SPAN, CNN, just like so nervous. Didn't have a suit, didn't wear a suit. Like, I just had like a button down, dress shirt. And it was on a Monday morning. And I remember we skated a contest on Sunday afternoon in Oceanside, California. And then I got on a red-eye flight after the contest. I won the vert contest and had to split, like, right after the award ceremonies. And it's funny, one of the judges, guy works for Ace Trucks now, Shrugi, went out partying, whatever. Like, he had seen me at the contest and then went out partying, Sunday night after the contest is all done, whatever. And he said he woke up sleeping on somebody's couch or whatever, all blurry-eyed, and CNN C-SPAN was on, and I was doing a speech, and he was like, woke up seeing me on television introducing the president, and he was just like, what, am I dreaming? Like, what is really going on? Andy was here. I just saw him last night, and now he's in Washington, D.C. introducing the president. It was just a funny, surreal experience for him, and equally as surreal and funny experience for me. But yeah, like, background checks, like, it was all set up. Like, they knew I was coming. I knew I was going. I stayed up all night, like, practicing my speech in the bathroom of the flight on the way there, just in mirror, like, okay, I got this. I guess I did. I mean, now I look at it, I'm like, I'm terrible at public speaking. I've come a long way in my public speaking. But went through the security and metal detectors and everything going into the White House, put my skateboard through the conveyor belt and got on the other side, and there's this big long marble hallway in front of me, and I I didn't ask permission. I just like, I got to be the first to skate in the White House, and put down my board and just rolled down. And the Secret Service agents weren't nearly as excited about it as I was.
What an honor, what an experience, Andy. I can barely imagine what that must have been like there. Oh, now, a couple more questions here, Andy. I'm going to wrap it up in a minute here, but I got to know, how do you deal with skating in front of thousands and thousands of people? Where do you get the ice in your veins? How do you just focus and get first place like you've done in front of all these people doing demos, doing contests? What mindset do you got to get into, Andy?
Yeah. Well, demos is just fun because, you're just trying stuff that it's okay if you fall. You want to do like the bangers and the crowd pleasers. Often in a demo situation, you're skating for more than, you're not doing it for the judges. So it's not like, so airs and inverts is fine. Like if you do a McTwist, yay. In the contest situation, you get more nervous. There's more nerves involved and more pressure. Certainly, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself at vert contests because I felt like my sponsors wanted me to do well. I wanted to do well to represent them. And there's prize money on the line, and that's how I made my living for years and years. Like this is how I feed my family. I have 3 kids, and I guess the way that I would try to battle the nerves would just be to do little things to remind myself that this is skateboarding and I'd be doing this anyways, and would take away all the crowd and the pressure and the sponsors and the cameras, and it's still just skateboarding, and I would be doing it in my backyard, so you'll notice every contest before they call my name, I'll drop in and I'll do a frontside rock and roll just to like get my legs moving, get the blood moving. And that trick in particular, because it's one of my favorite tricks, and just a stylish, fun trick to do, and a trick that I would be doing anyways, and a trick that will remind me like this is just skateboarding, this is just fun, and take all that other stuff away, just have fun and smile and ride your skateboard. And that's the best thing I can do to calm my nerves before I drop in and have to perform at the highest level that I can.
I'm hoping our viewing audience can take that note, because I'm hoping some of the kids can use your advice there, Andy. I got one last question before we go, Andy. I really appreciate you coming on here. I just think that in my head over and over. How is Tony Hawk doing? Everyone knows he broke his leg last week, and you're a friend of his. Yeah. Can you give us a little update on the Birdman?
Sure. A week ago, Monday, Tony was skating the warehouse. I happened to be up in Huntington Beach skating the Vans Park that day, but Tony was skating with Bucky and Steve Cab and Kevin Staub, and he was actually done skating and he was taking off his pads, and Bucky started dropping in, trying McTwist first wall, and Tony was like, all right, let's try that, just like having fun, goofing around. So Tony put his pads back on and tried a McTwist that was, ironically, like too low. Like if he was doing it at 6 feet, it would have been fine, but he was doing it off the drop in. So he was trying it at, trying to force it around at 3 feet. And he hit the ramp before he was ready to, and tried to kind of squat it in, force it in, and kind of squished up against the vert and went straight to the bottom on his knee. And he was already rotating a little bit. And you would think like his knee or his ankle would have blown out, but his femur blew out. And it was terrible, terrible day. But he's already up and walking, putting weight on it. He's walking with crutches that'll go away, I'm sure, like by next week. And it's funny because Tony is the celebrity that he is, and he broke his leg, and it happens. Like Stevie Cab broke his leg riding his motorcycle not too long ago. They're both around. Cabby's older than Tony. But because Tony is the celebrity that he is, there's all this like, oh, that's it. Tony broke his leg. That's hard stop. He'll never skate again kind of thing. And, for me anyways, and I'm sure most skateboarders are like, what are you talking about? Like it happens, like he got hurt and he'll be back and he'll do another McTwist for sure. I guarantee that. So, give him a few weeks, give him 8 or 10 weeks and he'll be skating again and good as ever. Until the wheels fall off.
Yeah. Good one, Andy. Good one. Yeah, yeah. Appreciate the update. I mean, the whole skateboard world was made aware of that, you know, with the way things work nowadays with the social media and everything. And definitely up here in Canada, a lot of people are thinking of him. Andy, I think we're going to tailor off here. I know you're a busy guy. You got some skating in your plans for the day. And we've got some things we want to look after today too. But once again, I really want to thank you for coming on and taking your time out of your busy schedule and talking to us at Skateboard Canada here. We wish you all the best, and have a great day on the board.
Thanks, Skateboard Canada. See you guys next time.
Yeah, take care, Andy. Have fun today skating. All right, folks, there you go. A legend, one of the best in the game, Andy Macdonald. It's an honor I have to interview and talk to my heroes. And thanks very much, Andy, for coming on. We're going to keep the wheels rolling here. Stay tuned, folks, for more exciting action from Skateboard Canada. It's Roger, tuning out.